Good morning and welcome. I'm Steve Lesterjet and this is Mountain Air. Every week at this time we bring you good conversations with interesting people about exciting things happening in and around Lincoln County. Thank you for tuning in, and let me give a big shout out to the KRUI Radio and our sponsor, NMU Ruidoso. Online with me today are two amazing friends here to talk with us about a wonderful project underway in Capitan, namely a ministry to victims of domestic abuse that will serve families throughout Lincoln County. I'm speaking about Hope Harbor. Every great cause needs a champion with a vision, someone to see the need and help move a work along. Lorna Fike is that person for Hope Harbor. Lorna is an executive director and CEO of Hope Harbor and has been since 2018. Lorna has the right tools for this work. She's a retired major in the United States Army Reserve, and she has served in many nonprofit organizations, including Patsy's Place Transitional Home in Amarillo. She was a court-appointed special advocate and a guardian for abused and neglected children in Austin, and she worked with the AmeriCorps Vistas program in Los Angeles. Lorna, say hello to everyone.
Hello, good morning. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
You're welcome. Glad to have you here. And with Lorna is Emily Hobbs, a Ruidoso native. Emily is a member of the Hope Harbor Board of Directors, overseeing its marketing and fundraising activities. She graduated from our local high school and grew up as part of the Flying J Ranch, which has brought happiness and family entertainment to thousands of families for a generation. After college, Emily became an advocate for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. In Colorado, she worked to establish a family justice center. And today, she is the regional coordinator of New Mexico RECA and Southwest Regional Education Cooperative. Welcome to the program, Emily.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Lorna, let's begin with you. I thought Lincoln County was one of the safest places in the country, but you're telling us that domestic violence is an issue here too. How prevalent is it, and what have you seen?
Well, in New Mexico, the statistics are 1 out of 3 women in New Mexico have been a victim of domestic abuse. Even though it seems like this is a really quiet, happy state, and it does appear that way, but it does have the highest numbers. The last reports statewide give New Mexico, I believe, second worst in the nation, second to Alaska. And Lincoln County has the worst numbers of the state. So it's been a big problem. I don't have a very current numbers. We just don't have them reported, but it has been a big problem. There's a shelter here that's a 3-month shelter, but at the end of 3 months, they have to go. And so there's no place to go. What it's like to be in a domestic violence situation is that you have nowhere to go. You have no way of escape. You have a fear that your children will be hurt or you'll be hurt or killed. They're told that they're worthless, unlovable, that they can't get a job, that they can't get education. They're isolated from friends and family. They don't have support or transportation. They don't have skills. It's a very captive, defeated situation. So with no hope, no long-term solution, which is what's needed, then they turn to drugs, alcohol, suicide, crime. That's what happens. So it's a real critical situation in this area. Of course, it is across the nation. We hear about it all the time. We came up with this dream to help that population.
What you're telling me is something I did not know. I did not know, and I bet most people in Lincoln County don't realize how prevalent it is. And you're telling us that Lincoln County leads the state of New Mexico in domestic abuse. Amazing. So tell us now the story of Hope Harbor and how this vision began. What brought it all together, and what brought you here to Lincoln County to do this?
Well, the beginning of this story was a church was asked to pray about what we could do for the community that was bigger than ourselves. That was something that absolutely we could not do on our own. It would take a God-sized work to do it. And the church was asked to pray for several months, and at the end of that, to not talk to anybody, but come together at the end of that time and say what they had heard God tell them. And what happened was they all had the same vision. They all said the same thing, a domestic violence, long-term transitional home, 2-year transitional home, or a transitional home for women and men that age out of foster. So we still do have that dream as well, because that's a very big problem here too. So we were looking for properties, and that was before the Little Bear Fire, if you remember, which I think was in 13. This dream was birthed, and people began to gather to talk about it, to establish a board. And then the fire came, and then some people had to move away, solve their own life problems because of that, and then started gathering back together. And about in 14, they asked me to join the group putting together the program. Well, I had been working in another transitional home that was a year-long transitional home for women out of prison, and I had been assisting the director, and so I agreed to just help. And so we started researching places. We visited transitional homes all over Texas, New Mexico, maybe other places, but I know I went to a number in Texas and New Mexico. And we found a model that is exactly like we wanted to do. It had proven success, so they had like 80% success rate, which is very good for a long-term program, because a lot of these women may be involved in addiction or other types of, problems that they have used to numb themselves from the pain, basically. So we looked for property, and John Cornelius, a builder here, helped us all these years looking for property, hoping someone would donate a place or we could get it real cheap, and trying to figure out how to get started. And then this church in Capitan closed and donated the building and basically 3 acres to us.
Oh my.
So we were gifted with this property and this church, and it took a long time because it's a 50-year-old building and the records were kind of lost from way back, but it took a while to get the warranty deed changed. And then it took quite a while to get plans drawn, and all along the way, we had people gifting us, helping to do that. We had a architect that gifted us help in the plans, which would have cost a fortune. And then, of course, Cornelius continuing to work with us just out of his heart. So he's also on the Ruidosville Village Council, so he knew a lot of people. He had a lot of resources and connections, and that's been a huge benefit. There's been just so many people that have stepped up and wanted to help this vision come true in this community. It's an incredible community. I don't know of any place that could be better to help get something started like this. So that place in Capitan is across from the school. We felt like it would be the safest, a bit isolated kind of place to have women with children.
You're taking that church building and you're adding on to it on that property that's on the highway there across from the high school there in Capitan. Tell us about the add-ons that you're doing, the place that you're building. What's inside that facility when it's done?
Okay. The church building will have 3 apartments for women with children, and each one of them will have a full kitchen, a full tub bath, and a washer dryer, so that they can fully care for their family by themselves. They can learn all those life skills. And like I said, it's a 2-year program, so that's for them to go to school and to learn life skills and to learn who they are and rewrite those messages that they're not, all those negative messages. So those 3 apartments will facilitate them having that kind of independence and learning. And then we'll have a staff live there, and so there's an apartment for staff there. We have an education center that has been partly funded by a Hubbard grant, and that will be where remote education, if needed, will go on for children. Of course, this last year we sure would have needed that. And we're partnered with ENMU to provide education for the women, and Workforce Commission, also they're right with ENMU. And we're partnered with the school system, which is right across the street for the children. There's about 3 areas that can be counseling rooms as well as all that. There's a break room, kind of board room, 2 multi-purpose rooms that can be children rooms or counseling rooms. So there's lots of room there to take care of any needs at any time. We have fenced in, if you drive by, a large area around the building with a high fence. So there's really good outdoor area that's protected for the women and children, where we can make a garden and play areas and all those things. And then behind that, we have approximately 2 more acres undeveloped, and that will be 18 duplexes back there to expand after we get this finished and we get the first phase funded. So exciting long-range plans ahead.
It sounds like a great plan too, and just amazing that you guys have done so much in such a short period of time. So Hope Harbor, which is under construction now and has not yet opened, when it opens, someone who's been battered or abused from a spouse or a family member can contact the harbor for a place to escape and stay and get their lives sorted out. How many people, Lorna, do you think can stay at the harbor at any one time? And how many people do you anticipate serving when the Hope opens?
3 adults, 3 women with children. So for the 3 apartments, each woman can have 1, 2, or 3 children based on the size of the apartment. Some are smaller than others. When we expand, those duplexes will be 2 bedroom, 1 bath. We want to do one thing well and not try to do too many things that we don't do, fully. So we're limiting the population to grade school and under so that we can have the skills to work with that age group. And statistics show that children that are impacted when they're young by domestic violence, it affects their health and their future, their careers. It affects them the rest of their life if it's not addressed when they're young. So we think that's a real priority, is addressing the children.
How long can a person stay at the harbor once they arrive, Lorna? And where do these people come from? How do they hear about you and the harbor, and how do they connect with you when they are in need?
Oh, good. It's a 2-year program that is flexible because they may have to have a GED first, and that may delay starting a school program or, whatever their career choice will be. So there is some flexibility built into that. Or they may need less, but 2 years on average. Your second question was?
Where do they come from?
Where do they come from?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. They'll be on referral from COAFD, counselors, school counselors, the hospital, Lincoln County Medical Center, individual counselors, churches, pastors, anybody really that can refer somebody that they believe has this need and is motivated to at least make the effort to go through this program so that they can get away from domestic violence for good and forever and be able to be solid on their feet, on their own, know who they are, believe in themselves, have skills. I mean, what a thing, but it's hard and people have to want that. And we will give them full support, of course. I mean, volunteers and teachers and the school and, of course, ENMU. We're partnered with such strong people that really believe in this, that everybody wants them to succeed. There will be rules and there will be restrictions. I mean, those things of drugs and drinking, but the benefits are just huge because we know that blocks growth. So the benefits will be so huge and we will have quality services.
Lorna, take us through what you feel like a day will look like, a day in the life of these women that stay there with their children. They get up in the morning. What can they expect during that season of time with you?
This is the way I see it. They get up in the morning. They have a few moments together of devotional type time, a time to center themselves around who they are, who God is, what their day is going to be like. Then, of course, breakfast, then going in a van to ENMU, or if they're taking remote learning, I know that ENMU will set up remote learning there at our site, and the school would too if we need that. So they would go to school. They would go to school for the day, and the children will go across the street, or they'll be in Head Start and Early Head Start that's provided by Region 9. Will be available to them. And that starts very young. So that's a really good solution for the children. So they'll spend the day. They come home, have dinner. Then Monday evenings we'll have life skills classes. We have a full training packet of life skills, which is stuff like home maintenance, car maintenance, insurance, finance. Every week they'll be working on finance program. We have a really, really quality program that we have set up for that. And we have a number of volunteers that want to help, including Maria Miskas from Washington Federal and people like that. It's about 12 modules of life skills that we got from another organization that would fit either men and women aging out of foster or women out of domestic violence. So it's a really, really good program. And that would be just that one night a week. And then other nights, there'll be different activities. Maybe Friday night, get together and volunteers come in and have a pizza party or do a craft or something like that. Of course, they'll have some free time, but they'll have schoolwork. So they'll have to keep up with that. If they want to work or if they already have a part-time job, that depends on if they can keep up their schoolwork. If they can do it, then yes. The program does fit anyone. So and let me say too that there'll be full security there. So there's cameras with sound and video. There's, all doors and windows have security. It's fully all the way secure. So that will be a comfort thing. Anyone who is in danger would not be able to live there. They need to go to a safe house. We're not a safe house, but we're a safe place long term. So we just want to be sure that we have that in place and the community can be completely at ease that all that is in place. We're partnered with the police, the sheriff's department, all these different resources.
Sounds like a wonderful thing for women who need to just put their lives on pause and sort things out and evaluate and get a second beginning. What a wonderful place, and how privileged we are to have a facility like that right here in Lincoln County. This is a good place to bring you in, Emily. Emily, what is your connection to Hope Harbor? How did you learn about it, and what prompted you to get involved in the first place?
I learned about it through the Flying J. My parents' band, the Flying J Wranglers, had done a couple of events for Hope Harbor, and so I got to meet Lorna at one of those events. And I had just kind of come off of what I thought was a close in my career as an advocate and social worker. And as soon as I heard her talking about it, I thought, gosh, I could still maybe contribute. And I had just come out of this work where I had been just immersed in so much information and data and, walked away with a greater understanding of the struggle and the impact long term and just during a crisis that families face when they experience domestic violence. And so it was something I really felt like I wanted to be a part of at some point. And luckily I met Lorna pretty much right away when I moved back to town. And so I wanted to, hear their story. I wanted to listen to where they were going. And at every point, I felt like they were really addressing the major barriers to success. Long-term support and stable support is so important in the success of somebody trying to survive a situation like domestic violence. And I felt like every time I spoke to Lorna about, the different pieces of their mission and the length that they had already gone to investigating programming and measurable outcomes, just kind of spoke to me and where I had just been. And I had been serving on a couple of boards that I was sad to leave behind in Colorado, and it was I felt like it was important for me to stay aware and stay connected, and then also, introduce myself to some of the needs in Lincoln County. Selfishly, Hope Harbor kind of provided that for me. And where I think it's been interesting as a board member is that, there's a lot of work that has been done and a lot of really good work, and it's a huge project. And so there's so much more work to be done. And, knowing that at different points in time, people across the community have been in a position to help and to give, it felt like, okay, well, I want to be a part of this community, and I'd also like to be able to give, and I don't have money to give, but maybe I can help us talk more about sustainable financial planning or best practices and those kind of things. So Lorna was just gracious enough to include me in their board, and we had a couple of other new board members start around the same time, and it's just been a really great community to be included in because of the needs of the community, especially around this pandemic. And, we've seen so many things shift. Domestic violence is definitely not left out of that. And so it's just definitely been a challenge to try to get work done during this pandemic. But the devotion and the commitment to the mission and the flexibility that we've seen with our board and with Lorna has been really, really encouraging, and I've been happy to be a part of it.
So now that you've brought that up about the needs, let's just get right down to the details, shall we? Emily and Lorna, I'm sure you need funds. How much are you needing to raise to finish this construction?
I would say at this point we need about $100,000 to $150,000 to comfortably finish the building. We're privately funded, so we get money through individuals and private grants and private donations. And I might just add right here, our website is hopeharbornm for New Mexico.org. The email is hopeharbornm@gmail. And on the website, you'll see all the ways to give. But you can, mail a check or hit a button on any page that is the donate PayPal button, because the need is great, but long-term need too, because we'll need ongoing funds to run it. We own the building, so it's not a huge expense for that, and utilities and so forth. A group is coming next week from Texas, from Granbury, Texas, and they're construction people volunteering on their spring break, and they're gonna be putting siding and soffits, which is incredible. So there's so much being given, but of course, building supplies have gone up, and already it's a lot. So even just supplies are huge. So yeah, we need that. We're going to need volunteers, of course, for now to help build. And I'll put a message out. If anybody wants to be on our newsletter list, there's a place to click on the page of the website that says newsletters. All the newsletters are there, and there's a place to say, add me to your newsletter list. And I would love for anyone to join that, because then I can keep you updated.
Wonderful.
So we'll put calls out for specific needs.
So it will take about $150,000 to finish the projects you're already working on, and then you say you're going to need that daily budget, the budget that will run the center in the future. Any idea what your annual budget might be, Lorna?
That'll be probably at least $150,000 a year.
I think people need to know, because I know there are people here that are listening that are willing and able to help, and they will want to help now that they know what's going on that property and how far you've come. And Emily, how are you getting the word out about this? How are you sharing the news of Hope Harbor with the community?
That's a great question. We've tried to keep an active presence online through our social media, and Lorna does a great job of connecting with people in the community. I should say too, if there are groups that would like us to visit, we are always happy to come out or zoom in and, share a little bit about what we're doing, where we've come from, where we want to be. It's a great place for people to ask questions and, learn about how they can help us, And what we'd like to focus on this year, you'll probably hear more about Hope Harbor and our fundraising efforts in the next, coming months. We've got a couple of projects we're going to start hosting, hopefully, once we can, be around people a little bit more freely. We'll be hosting an annual signature event, probably later in the year, like late fall, early winter. A chance for us to really share our story, meet potential community partners, and, provide just an avenue for connection. We know for sure that our success is dependent on the community that we'll be operating in. Hope Harbor, as you've listened to Lorna, tell this story, it's not Lorna, holding everybody's hand through this. As much as I would love that to happen, and I know she could totally do it, it's people like you and like so many who have felt something and felt like, okay, this is part of my responsibility as a member of this community, to make sure that people are safe, right? And how can I support that? And so we'll have a few events throughout the year where we'll be raising some funds. We are working right now on a hunt raffle. So just kind of working out some details on that. So that'll be a great way to contribute. Like I said, we'll have a signature event yearly, which we are really looking forward to, especially once things are a little bit more open. But again, we're happy to connect with any group in the area. We've received a lot of support through, the grapevine. People find out about us because, they might hear Lorna talk about it, or they might hear somebody talk about it who heard Lorna talk about it and feel like they want to reach out. I think the more people know about what we're doing, the more ways we can connect and utilize some people in our community. One of the things Lorna and I worked on kind of early on was how we want to utilize volunteers. And short term, we do need volunteers who have skills around construction and, some serious labor, because that's what's going into the property to get it open. But long term, we are going to be needing volunteers who have, something else to offer. And maybe that's a family cooking night class, or, some kind of soft skill that can translate to women and their kids moving forward with their lives. And so those kind of things are going to be what we'll look for down the road. And another huge way that people can help Hope Harbor, in addition to financial giving.
If I want to stay connected with Hope Harbor and hear about progress as it happens and understand, and when you send out a notice that you need volunteers, I want to be a part of that. How do I connect and stay engaged with you? Give us those addresses one more time.
The best way is our website is hopeharbornm.org for New Mexico, because there's lots of Hope Harbors. But we're hopeharbornm.org. Email is hopeharbornm@gmail.com. There's also an email through the website, and then there's the mailing addresses. There's PayPal buttons all over the website, and there'll be needs lists on the website too. And then there's the button on the website that you can sign up for the newsletter. Newsletter will come out probably as needed as things get busier. But we'll add people to the list. If there's a specific way you want to volunteer, then just email and let me know, and we'll put you on our list. And then we'll be emailing out things specifically to volunteers, or specifically to people in different categories, because we have that set up through the Gmail too. But if there's somebody who likes to work in an office, yes, let me know. There's just opportunities wide open. And we haven't been able to have volunteers at the building because we haven't had the initial inspections, but I believe next week that will begin to change, at least partially. So things are beginning to move. It's very exciting. If I can just also thank Ian Murriadoso and Ryan Trosper, because he is on our board now, and what a huge benefit to facilitate us getting out in the community and supporting us. And that's how we met Steve. And thank you so much for this opportunity. It's people like this all through the community that really are just doing their part, what they can do, that make a difference. Every single thing that every person does makes a difference in a life for good and forever. Yeah. You just don't realize. Thank you all so much.
It's a wonderful privilege to be a part of this. I'm one of those residents who hears the need and as Emily says, your heart is stirred, and you're looking for ways to get involved. I believe there's many, many of us out here, Lorna, that really want to participate and engage with you in some significant way to change lives. You really can see a ministry of this nature, of this magnitude, having a lifetime impact on women who've been through the worst of the worst. Well, time is about slipped away. Let me take a moment just to recap what we've heard today. Hope Harbor exists to provide a safe place of recovery for victims of domestic abuse in Lincoln County. It's a Christ-centered ministry, a 501c3 nonprofit overseen by a local board of directors. You can give to this ministry and it's tax deductible. You're building a facility to house battered women and their children in Capitan, and you need about $150,000 to finish construction and get the place open. Have I said all that correctly?
That's a good summary.
And you
Very good. And we want churches engaged too. So we welcome the support and help from all the churches in the community.
And you can connect with them through hopeharbor.nm.org. That's hopeharbor.nm.org. Well, thank you, Lorna, and thank you, Emily, and thank you, listeners. That's all the time we have for today, but please join us again next week for another great conversation. So from here, goodbye for now.
ENMU Ruidoso brings you Mountain Air every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. on KRUI 1490 AM, The Mountain.